Today, I want to take a look at the new Top 247 rankings, tell you what those are and how they're a little bit different from the 247 Sports Composite. Well, a lot different. And all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, we're going to have a discussion about the new Top 247 2020 recruiting rankings. Write them in stone. They're not going to change. Barton Simmons and the 5-Star Council came together to put together these rankings, and, well, they had a really great discussion about it that is on tape on the College Football Daily podcast. You can go get it. And there's some really great points that are brought up. But first, the Top 247 is 247 Sports' recruiting rankings. That is one of the three that goes into the 247 Sports Composite, which is industry generated and the one that we all kind of use to say whether a kid is a 4-star or a 5-star, depending, right? Depending on what other circumstances for which we are using a ranking, and really what is the kiddo's ranking, right? Because there are going to be 32 5-stars in the Top 247. Why? Because there are 32 NFL teams. And the purpose of these rankings is to try to project 3 years into the future which of the kids in the 2020 class is going to get drafted in the first round. Now, you'll know it ain't perfect. It's never been perfect. It will never be perfect because one 5-star is going to, as they say, bust, or another, or like 10, and a 3-star or a 4-star is going to come into his own and put together the kind of career that the NFL really loves, even a 2-star like Josh Allen. But there are also circumstances for which this happens. Like if you look at the 2017 class and you compare it to who people think, are going to get drafted in April in the first round, you'll see that there's a lot of 5-stars in there that are top 10 picks. Jerry Jeudy being among them, one of them. Chase Young being among them, one of them. Jeff Okudah and others, right? And then you got guys like Isaiah Simmons, who was a 3-star coming out of Olathe in Kansas, goes to Clemson and becomes a, modern linebacker that can play safety, outside linebacker, pass rush, inside linebacker. His frame allows for so much. His speed allows for more. He's technically sound. He understands what his role is in every coverage and every defense. He's a natural middle safety if that's the way you want to go. But I bring him up because, how'd you guys miss on that dude? Well, to be a 5-star, usually what has to happen is you already have to have the size and athleticism that puts you in that category of just being elite and that big. Arik Gilbert would be an example of this, tight end that is signed and going to LSU, and he's enormous, 6'5", 253. Or Keely Ringo, who's the top-rated cornerback, and I'll get to that in a little bit, 6'2", 205, just a big specimen. And then you need to go beat up on other kids who are considered 4-star, 5-star, 3-stars at camps and in the All-America Bowl, Under Armour All-America Bowl, or All-America Game, those sorts of environments. You need to be good on good, right? Isaiah Simmons wasn't one of those dudes. He didn't go to a bunch of camps. He didn't play a bunch of good on good football. The state of Kansas is not a traditional juggernaut when it comes to high school football recruiting. It ain't Texas. It ain't Ohio. It ain't Florida. It ain't California. You understand, right? With that in mind, I want to go through the list. And I'm going to reference it here in a second, so you'll see me pick up my phone and stare at the list for a bit, but don't get alarmed. We're going to talk about number 1 versus number 2 versus number 3 because it was made very clear in thinking about who should be the number 1 that there were only 3 candidates that the Rankings Council was considering. Bryan Bresee out of Damascus, Maryland, the top-rated defensive lineman in the 2020 class. Of course, DJ Uiagalelei coming out of St. John Bosco, 6'4", 250 with a cannon for an arm, throws a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And Bryce Young, who was the modern-day prototypical dual-threat quarterback that seems to be in vogue in the NFL. He is signed at Alabama. Of course, Uiagalelei and Bresee are at Clemson, and they're rooming together, which is kind of cool. Now, Bryce Young became the new number 1 in the Top 247 2020 recruiting rankings. And that is interesting because it felt like Bryan Bresee was just going to hold that spot. And they had a discussion about what is this? Well, first, you're trying to not only assign 5-stars as they should be assigned to 32 dudes that you expect to be there, but you're also trying to put them in draft order, which is another degree of difficulty that, they try to meet because why not? Bresee's comp according to Bart Simmons, who's the director of scouting at 247, is Ndamukong Suh. And you'll know his 2009 season is one of the best ever for a defensive player. And I've said that Mark Ingram has his Heisman at his house. Bo Pelini saw what Ndamukong Suh was able to do, convinced him to come back, and he put together one hell of a season. Just outstanding. I thought Bresee was much more of a J.J. Watt comp. I thought Bresee didn't necessarily get to, that stature, but he could get there, especially at his size. At 6'4", 6'5", 290 pounds. He's got elite hands. He's anticipating the snap count. You heard my best friend Ron talk a bit about Bresee and what he's capable of or not capable of at Clemson. And you're going to a place where they just pump out defensive linemen in the first round. I mean, they had 4 guys drafted in 2018 off the defensive front. The entire defensive front won the NFL draft. And they had 3 first-round draft picks on 1 4-man defensive line front. It's just ridiculous. I mean, Cleveland Farrell, you know about. Dexter Lawrence, you know about. Christian Wilkins, you know about. That's what Bresee is signing up to try to do. But moving Bryce Young ahead of him and basically staying pat with not staying pat, moving DJ Uiagalelei up to number 2, you can see what they're thinking about, right? They're saying, okay, the NFL has shown us in years past that when a quarterback is available and a cut above, that they're going to draft the quarterback because of the positional value associated with the quarterback versus defensive tackle versus a corner or wide receiver, which is something you need to take into account when we're talking about 5 stars and ranking them, right? You're not just ranking athleticism. You're not just ranking strength and power. You're just not ranking a high school football tackle total. You're ranking size, speed, agility, character, which we'll get to in a little bit, ability, and what does it mean at the NFL, which is the best form of football that we have today, right? We know that Bryce Young is further ahead. He's much more polished than DJ Uiagalelei. He's drawing comparisons to Kyler Murray, not by me, but by others, and I can see it. Kyler Murray throws a much better ball downfield, so past 40 yards, Kyler Murray's probably the better passer of the 2, but intermediate passing, anticipating guys coming out of breaks, throwing receivers open, putting it only where they can get it in tight windows off of intermediate routes or even deep outs and deep ends. Bryce Young is that dude. He's got tremendous ability in the pocket, and we thought for a while that he was just going to stick with USC, and he surprised some of us with his flip commitment to Alabama, signed to Alabama. He's going to be competing with Mac Jones and Talia Tagovailoa for the starting quarterback job at Alabama this year. He also is tremendous in the character category. I mean, Craig raised an outstanding young man, and if you heard him on the microphone at the All-America Bowl, you will see what I'm talking about. He gets it. He understands it. Steve Sarkisian wanted him from the jump, and he got him, so I'm excited to see what that looks like. DJ Uiagalelei is the successor to Trevor Lawrence, who is going to start the 2020 season and then be eligible for the NFL Draft 2021. He's been penciled in as the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 draft since he was a true freshman at Clemson and usurped Kelly Bryant as the starting quarterback there. I mean, my man is 25-1 as a starter. He took the first loss of his career as a starter in college. Yeah, in the national championship game. He's really good. And you're going to have a year to redshirt DJ Uiagalelei, who's going to be committed to playing football, maybe play Clemson baseball later on because he's got a future in that as well. That's really the Kyler Murray comp for me because he could play baseball and football with a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. And he moves really, really well, just not as well as Bryce Young. As a matter of fact, I think Uiagalelei's comp is Jameis Winston with the way that he moves around the pocket and throws the ball from all different angles and can uncork one that'll go 70 yards from his knees if he needs to. He's that kind of talent. And those 3 guys really are what we were talking about when we're talking about the top players in the 2020 class. Not unlike the college football playoff, where there was an argument to be made that there were only 3 teams worthy, hate that word, of competing for a national championship in the college football playoff. Of course, they were LSU, Clemson, and Ohio State. Oklahoma is Julian Fleming in this way. Tremendous upside, probably 2 years away, overperformed expectations in 2019. Didn't expect him to get back to the college football playoff, but that is becoming the standard at Oklahoma. 4 out of 5, 3 in a row. Also, yes, 0-4 in the playoff. And I still think they're, 12-2, 12-2, 12-2. Feels like this season, I don't know where the losses are, but 12-2 again with Spencer Rattler as a redshirt freshman quarterback. I think 2021 is the year for Oklahoma, but Julian Fleming is that in this 2020 class. As a wide receiver, he's the best wide receiver. I mean, number 4 in the country overall, but also he's not really committed to playing football the whole time. And that's what's most exciting about him. He's got the most upside of any of the players in the top 10 because he's never just committed to being a wide receiver. He's played other sports, right? Like we tell everybody, play all different kinds of sports. But he's also a wide receiver, which is to say that his position does not carry the same value as a defensive tackle or a quarterback because it's so dependent on who the quarterback is, how good the offensive line is, how often they throw the ball in that scheme. But we all expect Julian Fleming to be that dude for Ohio State. I mean, with Garrett Wilson on one side and, yes, Justin Fields in the middle and a Master Teague in the backfield. I mean, they're going to be a lot of fun. But I could see how Julian Fleming ends up as number 4. I could also see why you might have an argument there because of the positional value associated with wide receiver, not because it's Julian Fleming, right? I think most people who are nuanced understand that. And yes, I'm going to talk about Oklahoma football players in another upload, but I wanted to basically differentiate the two. One, because no Oklahoma football player is a 5-star according to 247 Sports. The highest ranked is Andrew Raym at number 41, and he's an offensive guard, and we could talk about positional value there, but the comp that you would have to give him if you wanted to make him a 5-star is Quentin Nelson, which is to say that he's not just the best guard, he's also one of the best players in all of high school football or headed to the NFL draft. Quentin Nelson was that. I'm not sure Andrew Raym is. But he could be. I mean, they all could be, but not today, right? And I think you also have to take into account how many interior offensive linemen get drafted in the first round. How often does that happen? And when it does, it's usually a Quentin Nelson. It's a Garrett Hundley. It's those dudes. Creed Humphrey is the next guy that we might think about that happening for, but even he has a ways to go as he demonstrated in 2019. So past number 4, Will Anderson at number 5. He is committed and signed to Alabama. Outstanding wide side defensive end. I think, well, they got 2 dudes I think can come off the edge there that are going to be absolutely outstanding. Gervin Dexter, I'm fine with this. He moves up 19 spots after Will Anderson moved up 59. Both of those guys are fast risers because of how they perform as seniors, right, which is huge, massive senior seasons, and then how they perform at the All-America Bowl. If they performed at the All-America Bowl, if they were, not just in the game, but during the week, if they were destroying people during the week that are other 5-stars, that are considered 5-stars, you could see how the Rankings Council would do some moving and some shaking and some jockeying, and they did. At number 7, I wanted to discuss Kelee Ringo for just a bit here. I know that for many, he is the best player in all of high school football. I know he's number 4 in the 247 Sports Composite and number 1 corner in the country, according to 247 Sports itself, but that's also because of his size, 6'2", 205, and his ability during the week. I think Elias Ricks is much further ahead, LSU signee, and one of my favorite 2020 players, but I can understand why you would want to rank Kelee Ringo ahead of Elias Ricks, because Ringo allows for you to match him up with the best tight end you might have, your bigger, stronger receiver that's supposed to be a mismatch when he's on the field, and he erases that because of his tremendous technique as a corner and or defensive back safety type, but also because you're not going to bully him. He's going to be able to defend himself and get your hands off of him and go make plays. You have to remember, this is the guy that would go up against Arik Gilbert and win. 6'5", 253-pound Arik Gilbert, 6'2", 205, Kelee Ringo. So you can see that he must be really strong. And I've known Kelee for the better part of 3 years now. And him at Georgia is exciting to me because Kirby Smart is going to be able to teach him better technique because he's still very raw, especially in relation to Elias Ricks. But he also has tremendous upside. If you want to play him at strong safety, or I think that's a natural fit, cool. You want to put him out on an island as a corner, you could do that too and just match him up against the best receiving threat that you face each and every week because he's that good. And shouts to Smart, who went all the way to Saguaro to get him in Arizona and bring him to Georgia. Paris Johnson, most people know about, 6'7", 290-pound offensive tackle. Yeah, man. Those are first-round draft picks. Those are top 10 draft picks. You put a premium value on offensive tackle who's got tremendous bend, but also can get lower, doesn't get beat with guys with tremendous spin coming off of wide, like say a 7 technique or 5 technique. Not going to get bullied. He's got great hands. He's got great feet. I expect him to be really good at Ohio State. Going down the list, I mentioned Arik Gilbert a number of times. Highest rated tight end in like the last 5 years, man. Like Arik Gilbert is going to be a monster for LSU. And think about this. Arik Gilbert's going to be an upgrade to LSU's tight end position with Thad Moss leaving and declaring for the NFL draft. That's after a season in which Thad Moss did not drop a pass. Randy Moss's kid did not drop a pass. And he was an absolute terror against Oklahoma in the college football playoff and all season, really, right? And he showed himself in the national championship game as well. But the idea of Arik Gilbert in that LSU offense, if the quarterback is Miles Brennan as you do, cool, is intoxicating to me. I really want to see what he can do. You're not going to just throw him out there in passing situations. He's a tremendous blocker. He can get to the second level and seal for you. Great addition to LSU. Justin Flo staying on the West Coast, going to Oregon. I am excited about the Oregon defense because not just Justin Flo, but later on down the list, Noah Sewell. Justin Flo's comp to me is Vontaze Perfect. Okay, he's that nasty, he's that mean, but he's also tremendously quick. He's able to split in between your guard and your tackle and your guard and your center. A gap, B gap. He doesn't care. He'll time the snap and he'll go and not just destroy the quarterback. He will put him on the ground in a demoralizing fashion. Justin Flo is going to be a lot of fun to watch at Oregon and Mario Cristobal, and that defense just got better with Kayvon Thibodeau coming off a true freshman season where he had 9 sacks. I mean, they're going to be so much fun. And you get to add later on, and I get to this, but Noah Sewell. Noah Sewell is a 6'2", 270-pound inside linebacker. 270-pound inside linebacker. Now, I think he projects to play in 5 technique. You know, he's going to be on the end. I think he's going to have his hand in the dirt before it's all said and done. But if you watch the huddle film, you can see he's so quick, he's so fast, he knows exactly what he's supposed to do and how he's supposed to do it. If you put Noah Sewell and Justin Flo in the middle of your defense, nobody's running on you. Not through the tackles. They're going to kill everything that comes their way. All right? So I love that. Down the list to Texas with Bijan Robinson, who averaged 17 yards per carry as a senior in high school, which is stupid. He has an opportunity to not just help Texas, but really change the fortunes of Texas if he assumes, well, the feature back role. He's going to have a lot of competition. Keontae Ingram, Roshan Johnson, Daniel Young, but definitely a 5-star. And I know that there's some folks that would comp him to Alvin Kamara. I don't know that he's that great a pass catcher out of the backfield, but he could definitely be an Ezekiel Elliott type where if you just feed him, good things will happen. Going down the list, I mean, I went by Drew Sanders, but best athlete in the class. Oklahoma commit for a second. Flips to Alabama, where I think he's going to end up playing some outside linebacker like Terrell Lewis. Good luck with that. All right. Continuing down the list, C.J. Stroud, 5-star, who had a great senior season, ends up at Ohio State based entirely on what he was able to do as a senior. I'm excited to see what that looks like when he gets some seasoning. At the bottom of this list is Alfred Collins, who Texas and Oklahoma are in a battle with. He's obviously a Texas commit. Cristobal's have him going to Texas. Signing day is less than a week away now. We could understand. We could see, right, how Alfred Collins could end up a 5-star and a first-round draft pick with his size at 6'5", 280 pounds. He needs better technique. I mean, my man's stance is like a TP, all right? But he also has got tremendous get-off. They're not really able to block him. If he's taught what it means to play end and you put him in a 4-man front where he can get one-on-one matchups more often than not and he can split offensive linemen rather than catch him, he could be dynamic and good. The last guy that I wanted to make reference to is Zach Evans, who fell outside of the 32 and is no longer considered a 5-star according to 247 Sports. Why? Well, I think a lot of this has to do with not how he played an All-America game because he was offensive MVP, but you sign your you sign your national letter of intent early to go to Georgia. And then a couple weeks later, they release you of that national letter of intent. Now, there are 2 schools of thought on this, right? One is he wanted to go, and the other is they didn't want to keep him. Mutually part ways. Fine, whatever. But now it's Does Zach Evans want to return to Georgia? I don't know that they would even want him to return, but if they did, we know what kind of talent he is. You get sent home during the state championship game because you got a discipline problem. That can figure into your ranking because Aaron Hernandez famously dropped to the 4th round. Now, Aaron Hernandez did some other stuff that we don't need to mention, but you'll know about it because he was stupid at Florida, right? Great talent, first round talent. Head. This is why I tell all the kiddos, hey, keep your head on straight, all right? Don't do anything stupid. Don't draw unnecessary attention to yourself by, making it about you. Try to do your best you can, show everybody your ability, but there's no reason to be stupid about this. Zach Evans has had more opportunities to be stupid than not. He's played with everybody's fan base on Twitter. He's engendered both good and bad will. I think he's going to end up playing SEC football, maybe at Texas A&M. We'll see. They're getting to be loaded. But his career in college is going to have to be one of cleanliness for him to be a first-round draft pick. You're going to have to put childish things away. But that can affect your ranking. I think it did, right? I think that's a big issue for Zach to get worked out. All right. That's it for me. Deuces.